So when we're thinking about estate taxes and how you can address them or mitigate them, it's a very, very real concern. So there's three major areas of tax we're looking to mitigate: income, capital gains, and if you're above a certain threshold, estate tax. Now, the estate tax has different levels that you need to consider. If you are a married couple that has north of around $25 million of net worth, anything above that level as of now has a taxable impact to it upon death of the second spouse. So if let's just for back of the envelope, let's say the number is 25 million for a married couple and you have a $35 million net worth, that means 10 million would be taxable from an estate standpoint. Meaning the first 25, give or take, is going to be excluded. That's a threshold that the government now allows you to not be taxed on. So in that world, if let's say we're working with a family and that was their situation and they had a $35 million net worth and we had $10 million that was, say, exposed. When you have, say, $10 million that's exposed, now you have to solve for that because on the federal level, you're talking about a 40% taxable estate. 40% tax on your taxable estate. So in this scenario, if $10 million was exposed, that means your heirs would have to pay $4 million. Now, a lot of times the money's not liquid. A lot of times it's in real estate, private investments. It could be in private businesses, and that can leave your heirs in somewhat of a pickle, right? So the best example I've been using for years that I thought was really interesting actually has a lot to do with estate planning, but it's really about football. So I grew up in New York, which we're around here, and unfortunately I'm a Jets fan. And so I'm a Yankees fan too, and that's kind of like the back and forth where the Yankees win and the Jets lose, so I'm kind of humbled there and I'm even-keeled. But growing up in the 80s, and I would watch my beloved Jets lose to their division rivals, especially the Miami Dolphins, when they were playing against Dan Marino. And they would play in Miami at Joe Robbie Field. Joe Robbie was then, in the 80s, the owner of the Miami Dolphins. Now, you might be thinking, like, well, what does this have to do with estate planning? Well, what happened was Joe Robbie was a very, very successful and wealthy businessman who did not do any advanced planning or estate planning at the level he should have done, and unfortunately had passed away, I don't want to say prematurely, before his life expectancy, right? I think he was in his mid-60s. And the team was one of the larger assets, which is illiquid, and there was a huge estate tax. And the family had to sell the team to cover the tax. And so if you think about that, the legacy of Joe Robbie, we talk a lot about legacy and everything we've been talking about. A lot of people today never heard of Joe Robbie because the Miami Dolphins don't play at Joe Robbie Field anymore. They play at Hard Rock Stadium. And a lot of folks don't even know, the younger generation, who Joe Robbie was. And had he had taken the appropriate steps, there could have been solutions and strategies and certain financial vehicles and legal structures that can shield those assets from potential estate taxes. And potentially today, there would be more of a legacy when it comes to the Miami Dolphins as opposed to they're just playing at Hard Rock Stadium. So does that make sense?